Absolutely love breaded pork chops. They're easy to make, there's so much flavor in there, and it's a wonderful weeknight meal to serve up to your family because it's done in under 30 minutes. You will love this recipe. I think one of the main reasons I like breaded pork chops so much is because I grew up with a dad who wanted to bread just about anything. We had breaded steak, fish, chicken, you name it, he was putting breading on it. But oh my goodness, was it so good. I even remember a few times he was making his own breadcrumbs. Super delicious, and like I said, it's so simple and comes together so quickly. It's like a fantastic gourmet meal in the middle of the week from your own kitchen. Love that. What we're going to do now is knock out a little prep. Sound good? Let's cook. So to begin this recipe, I'm just going to simply pull out some pork chops from the refrigerator. These are pretty big, about 10 to 12 ounces per piece. Each of these will easily feed one person, maybe even two if you're lucky. And I obviously am using a big double thick cut bone-in pork chop, but you don't have to, okay? If you have a single like normal thin cut pork chop that's bone in or bone out, totally up to you. And you could even use pork tenderloin or pork loin in this recipe. It's all what you have. Again, maybe check and see what's on sale, pull something out of the freezer, use what you have. There's just something to me about that bone in. It just adds more flavor, seals in more juices. It's just me. If that's not you, no worries. Use what you've got, use what you like. Now, I want to pound these out just a little bit, so go ahead and lay down some plastic wrap right onto your cutting board. Grab one of those big old thick pork chops, lay it right down over the plastic wrap, and then fold the plastic wrap over the top. And then what you want to do at this point is grab your mallet, and I'm just going to very, very gently pound these out, maybe 30 to 45 seconds. We're just looking to tenderize them and thin them out a little bit so they cook a little quicker when we are pan frying them. This looks excellent. Go ahead and take the pork chops off and set it to the side on a plate and just repeat the process until all the pork chops have been pounded out. So there are kind of two schools of thought when it comes to seasoning up a breaded piece of meat. You can either season the piece of protein before, just salt and pepper that pork chop up and then run it through the flour, egg wash, and breadcrumbs, or you can season up the flour or the egg wash or the breadcrumbs, combination of three or one or two. For me, I like to do the flour and the breadcrumbs. So here is how we're going to do it. To start off with our standard breading procedure, we're adding some all-purpose flour to a bowl. We are going to season it with sea salt and pepper. Go ahead and grab a fork or a whisk and give it a little mix. And like I always say, be sure to taste it just to make sure it's nice and seasoned. Once it is mixed together, set it to the side and then grab another bowl. We're going to bring that out. You know me, I like to use pie tins. I only had two though. I didn't have three for the standard breading procedure. And now I'm going to add in some large eggs. Again, just grab a fork or a whisk and mix these things together. I'm not going to season up the eggs. I believe that first initial breading using the flour will provide a decent amount of salt and pepper. No need to do it to the eggs. And now for the final, we've got some breadcrumbs into that little pie tin or bowl, followed up with some onion granules, some garlic granules, a little bit of dry oregano, and then last, some dry thyme. You could also add rosemary or basil if you'd like. And then, of course, I'm going to hit it with some grated Parmesan cheese. Going to add some awesome flavors to this. We're going to hit it with a little bit of black pepper, and then, of course, some sea salt. Grab a fork or a whisk again and mix all of these things until completely combined. And just like the flour, go ahead and stick your finger in there and give it a little try. You want to make sure this is seasoned. So we've seasoned the flour and we've seasoned the breadcrumbs. Now go over to your pan before we bread anything. Add in your oil. We want to bring it up to temperature. We're going to start off around medium high, maybe even medium. Get the oil moving. Make sure it's nice and hot before we add anything. If you don't have a thermometer, just add in a little bit of flour. If it begins to start frying, you know you're in a great place to start cooking. I know I've said this before, but when it comes to using oil for pan frying, I'm a huge fan of safflower oil. It's got a nice high smoke point. It's a little more on the healthier side, better than vegetable and canola oil, and it's not horribly expensive. But I want to encourage you to use what you're comfortable with. Maybe if you're a big ball and you can load this thing up with olive oil, use what you have, use what you like in this recipe. You'll be totally fine. Here's what we do now.
Time to bread everything up, so add your pork chop first to the flour bowl. It's so important to take the time at each breading procedure to completely coat the pork chop. No need to rush it. So once you've got it completely coated in flour, give it a little shake, dust off any excess. We're going right over to the egg wash. And when you use just eggs and no milk, it sticks so much better than when you add milk. It just adds another layer of breading. Again, completely coat it on both sides and then dredge this in the breadcrumbs. You want to pile on the top, press down, move around, do anything you have to do to make sure this thing is breaded up. One of the biggest questions I get is, how do you get breadcrumbs from falling off when cooking it? This is the way. Doing the standard breading procedure will ensure your breadcrumbs stay coated on whatever it is you're cooking. Once it is coated, we're just going to set to the side on a sheet tray lined with parchment paper or even a plate. Whatever you've got lying around is totally fine. Take the pork chops back over to the burner where our pan is. And what we're going to do is add pork chops one at a time to this pan. Now this pan is about 12 inches, so I've got plenty of room in here to cook these. Plus, when you add in the pork chops, it will increase the oil. Obviously, you're taking up more surface area, so it will allow the sides of the pork chops to cook. And we're going to cook them till they're nice and golden brown, so don't go too far.
So here's a really quick tip. If you put these breaded pork chops into the oil and they start browning like immediately, like super brown, really dark immediately, there's a couple things you can do. One, remember there's cheese in the breading and it's gonna brown up much quicker. Two, take the pan off of the heat. Set it to the side for a few minutes. Remember, when you put the pork chops in, they were cold. They will help bring the temperature of the oil down quickly as long as it's not over the heat. Maybe set it to the side for 1 or 2 minutes, put it back over the heat, but instead turn that heat down, maybe to medium or medium low, whatever it takes to cook them and brown them. That is the key. Now,
after about 6 to 8 minutes at around 300 to 325 degrees in the oil, we're going to give our pork chops a little flip. Remember, these are double thick cuts, so they're going to take a little bit longer to cook. Now, if you're not comfortable with feel and pressing them, knowing when they're done, I always recommend grabbing a thermometer. And when it comes to pork chop, no need to go all the way to well done. So once they hit around 145 to 150 degrees, take them out, set them on a rack, or you can place them on a paper towel to drain any excess oil off. And now it's time to serve these things up. So take it off and we're going to set it right over on the countertop.
So if you've gotten to the point that maybe you're like, dang, these are a little bit too brown, I don't think they're done in the center, take them off, put them on a cookie sheet tray lined with parchment paper in the oven, 350 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes, so you don't have to sit around sweating, wondering if you're going to burn these things and they're not going to be finished in the center. It's a great way to do it and finish them off, and they'll still be nice, juicy, and tender. Now, to all my commies, my chefs in training out there, I tell you all the time, it's about understanding these fundamental, basic cooking techniques. We're talking about breading a pork chop. It's not rocket science. But once you understand this standard breading procedure, the flour, the egg wash, and the breadcrumbs, seasoning it in stages, you apply this to all of your everyday cooking and everything that you bread up. It doesn't matter if it's a piece of Dover sole or spadini. You know how to do it now, and you practice it. I promise you, homemade food from scratch will always taste better. It's better than anything out there. You know the ingredients, you just did it, you know how to do it, so apply it. Now, let's plate up in slow-mo.
I'm going to serve these on a big, large, round plate. If you have a platter or even a cutting board, all the better. All I had laying around was a plate because my platters are still in storage until the new studio is done. And I'm telling you, if you add a little lemon or squeeze a little lemon on here, oh my gosh, that's all the sauce you need. So tasty. I'm going to finish it with a little chopped fresh thyme and parsley, and man, oh man, check out these beauties.
No joke, best weeknight 30-minute meal out there. So juicy, so amazing. Serve it up with risotto or vegetables, even mashed potatoes. Ooh! Now that is a fine meal, my friends. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, like and share this video, and check out this video right here because I made it just for you. I'll see you on there.